there's no way that anyone can really think this man can last another 5 years with the hardest job on earth. It's one thing to just wanna win, but I almost think it's embarrassing for the Democrats. Now, I think Donald Trump is embarrassing for different
Yes.
reasons,
Right.
but it's embarrassing that the Democrats are pushing this elderly man almost in a casket, like, to the finish line just to win, and then the general thought is, well, once he wins, like, he doesn't have to do anything,
Right,
right?
he can well, he just has to do what he maybe can still do, which is run the country. He doesn't have to ever worry about campaigning again,
Yeah.
and then maybe he could turn it over, to Kamala at a certain point. We need ranked choice voting. We need
Yes.
people over 80 should not be running for office. I hate that we are here. I hate that these are our choices. That said, if your question is okay, given all of that, we are where we are, right? What's for the Democrats, if you're talking about strategy, what do I think is the best strategy? I think it is to communicate to Biden, which I think the message is already there and his people, that the next few months are incredibly important. And remember, we're going to learn a lot more information over the next few months. We're going to have so many things come up, the State of the Union, there's a potential government shutdown, all of the primaries. We'll have a lot more clarity about Trump's legal issues and when he might be going to trial. Because again, that is one of the giant potential game changers out there that I think is very likely to happen, which is Trump is tried for his alleged crimes of trying to overturn the election in January 6th. You're going to have all of those things. And then think about all the other things we're not even thinking of that might pop up, right? The chance to do interviews, the chance to show that he still has it. So I think the best strategy is let Biden go through these next few months and let's check his temperature, like collectively, the voting public, the Democratic elites, everybody. And then when you get to, I think the Democratic convention's in August. You don't want to show up the day that it starts and resign then if you're going to. But I think a month before, if Biden's doing fairly well and Trump is about to be convicted for trying to overturn the election and Biden's up by 5 or 10 points, then you ride with Biden, right? I mean, you ride with him and you say I feel pretty good. But if not, if all of that stuff happens and it looks like Trump might be going to prison and Biden's still losing, then I think, and he doesn't look up for it, then I think you are better off throwing the process open. It would probably be Kamala Harris. Let's be honest. I mean, Biden would probably, I would think, if he isn't going to run again, this is pretty hypothetical. I would think he would endorse his vice president, either implicitly or explicitly endorse her, and she would be the most likely nominee. And there would be other people who would get. And I personally would love Josh Shapiro, who's the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania. I think he's great. I think he appeals to a lot of people in the middle. But nobody knows who he is. And for the most part, nationally outside of Pennsylvania. So is he better than an incumbent president? Again, if Biden is ahead and doing okay, I don't think he is. But if Biden can't do it, and he still is behind at that time, then I think you do throw it open and let them fight it out for the delegates at the convention.
So I hate to say this. This is how I actually feel. I don't want this man to like fall down and hurt himself, but I almost think that Biden needs to have a moment, a senior moment that is so bad. I think this is in the best interest of the party and the country. I think Biden has to have a moment that's so bad they have to move on because his moments, there's been a lot of them.
Like a
It
Mitch
almost has to be.
McConnell. You're saying like a Mitch McConnell moment where he freezes for a minute or
I just I I think it has to be something because he's already fallen down a couple times. He stutters a lot. He forgets. If he does that, we'll say same old Biden. I think it has to be, and I shouldn't laugh about this, but I think it has to be something pretty bad. Like he has to go out there and forget his name or something, which might happen. I just
it
think we
could.
need that. Like I feel like I'm living in frickin' La La Land. I
I
feel
know.
like I'm living in a different reality of all these people that are telling me that Biden is the better option to win. I truly don't believe that. And I think I have a good pulse of Democrats and kind of the middle. Like I'm from Ohio and I've lived in Missouri and all these like elites and media folks who keep telling me that Biden is still the best option. I truly don't agree with that at all. And you threw out that polling. I just think if you actually put Whitmer or Newsom and all the money behind it and you really got it going, I think Democrats are going to vote for a Democrat over Donald Trump for sure. And there's a lot of people in the middle that just, oh gosh, Biden is so old. Okay, this person, they're normal. They're not Trump. They're 54 years old. That person's fine with me.
I think you could be right and you might be right, but the problem is there's no evidence of it that you can point to. There's no poll that says that. And I think that is one of the issues, and also the just the fundamental weakness of who the obvious personage is, which is Kamala Harris. Although I will say Harris has seemed to me to be better lately when I've seen her. I don't know if she's doing like media training or she's just more confident. She seems better recently. And in the polling, it used to be there was a big gap between how Biden did against Trump and how Harris did. Biden did significantly better. But like I said, the poll I mentioned earlier, Trump was up 1 on Biden, 3 on Harris. So I think you're starting to see a convergence, which gets back to the earlier point we made about how polarized we are as a nation. And that if you gave it a few weeks, I tend to agree with you that I think Newsom, Whitmer, Josh Shapiro, whoever it may be, would be roughly in the same spot that Biden is now against Trump in a fairly short period of time. But would they be better? And that's the question. Another thing to consider, this made me think when you were talking about Biden having a senior moment. Because I think most people assume that if Biden had one of those moments, again, I hate to pick on Mitch McConnell, but like a Mitch McConnell type moment, although he's recovered pretty well from that, but he had his problems where he locked up in public a couple times. Would that necessarily, like, let's say that happened in September, October, right? After it was too late to change it out. Would that automatically lose the election for Biden, even if he were like slightly ahead at the time? And I think about in Missouri, this may be before you got there, but Senator Carnahan died in a plane crash, and when he was running for reelection. This was like early part of this century, 20 years ago or so. And he died, and he won the election, and his wife served the term. So now I'm not saying Biden's going to die, but I'm saying it's not unheard of that a candidate who cannot serve the term still wins. I mean, literally in the case of Carnahan, he was dead, right? So people voting for him knew that he would not be serving that term, and he still won. So
It
it
could be
is
worse.
possible. It could, right. It could be worse.
That's crazy. And maybe I shouldn't care, although I think I should. I just think it's just so odd that we're trying to just win when we know this guy just needs to go to the nursing home or just spend time with his family. Also think about his legacy. Maybe nobody cares anymore, but I feel like if Joe Biden stepped aside, I feel like his legacy, if he stepped aside and somebody else beat Trump, that's a pretty decent legacy to say, hey,
Yes.
I stepped away after being a popular vice president to give Hillary her shot. She didn't win. I came out and rescued you, freaking Democrats, and won. And
Yeah.
then you know what? I got too old, and instead of being this guy who's just going to do everything for me, I stepped aside and let somebody else jump in and beat Trump. That's a pretty dang good legacy. The
Right.
legacy
Not to
gets
no,
torched when you become all you're remembered for is you lose to Donald Trump, and everything we remember are memes and gifs of you falling down and forgetting things and babbling.
right. And especially if Trump does some of the things and tries to institute some of the policies his critics, fear that he will. And then you're the guy that didn't step aside when you should have, when it was obvious that you were too old. And I think that is the real like challenge and the real threat that is facing Democrats right now. And it's one of the reasons it's going to be fascinating over the next few months. Because here's the thing, if you have an open contest because what you're advocating for, you want to see like Biden announce he's not running and open it up and let them fight all the way from now to the convention, right? Is that what you're saying you think should happen?
I want that because I feel like Kamala Harris, at least give her a shot. Like, I'm not saying Kamala Harris can't be the person, but I want to see her versus Newsom and Whitmer over the next 5, 6 months and somebody win that.
Like have debate, because it's too late for primaries for the most part. I think there are a few states where they could file, but they could actually go out and campaign. They could have some debates. There would be time for that. I'll tell you, for our purposes and people who love politics, it would be way more exciting and interesting if that were the case.